Welcome to Being at Home with George. I'm excited to be here, and let's begin the way we normally begin, which is to say yes to whatever comes up, to embrace it, and to generate the hope. And it's interesting that today is February 29th, which is actually leap year. So we can talk about leap year as being the year to leap to faith, or this idea of seeking to understand so that we can make a leap in progression. We can actually evolve a little bit more. This is the fourth session in a row. And just to recap a little bit, the first one we talked about this idea of getting the insight or the understanding before we applied the technique. And that has to do with getting clear about our intentions so that clear intentions lead to clear actions. The second part of this process was reflecting before experience. And that has to do with obviously motivation and the strategy, the technique, the approach. And then the third part of this process had to do with reflecting during the experience, during the activity, and real time adjustments on the fly, immediate feedback loop where we get the feedback and we make the adjustments on the fly. So today we're going to go on the fourth part of this, which is reflecting after the activity or event. And so I like to talk about it, just going back to this idea of true understanding comes from reflecting on experience. So whether we're reflecting before, during, or after, it's really important to reflect on it. And so what comes to mind is I introduce my friends, the 4 A's. And the first one is awareness, which is mirror mind. And then what we talk about here, just saying yes, whatever's there, that's the acceptance piece, saying yes to it. And then the third part is the compassionate action or the action piece. And then after that, then you do the assessment. So I would say this last reflection point is this idea of assessing after the fact. What did we learn? What's the lesson we need to learn? And a lot of times that shows up as something worked. We got that one. Something didn't work or work quite as well. And then the question becomes, how do we get what didn't work to work better? And I would even say, how do we get what worked to continue to work and to maintain and cultivate it so we can perfect it or make it a way of being? Because what I've learned in my experience is we get lessons, and unless we learn the lessons, the universe keeps giving them to us. So here we're really talking about this idea of learning from experience. And this idea, if I talk about it, sometimes it's about this circular learning that you go over the terrain over and over, is to repeat the skill development. You go over it, and each time you go over it, you find something or you discover something new. But it all starts with the way we create the possibility of saying yes to whatever comes up, the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful. And it's only by saying yes to it that we have the acceptance of it, then we're capable of doing the action. So here we're doing action that's actually based on what we said in the first session. It's the understanding, then the way to do it. The technique comes after that. And so it's this feedback loop that we go through it and we get feedback that where it doesn't work, it's telling us what we need to learn and practice to get the performance we need. And so this idea of reflecting on experience, and it's interesting because this is an ongoing thing. It's not just when that activity is over. It's a way of being. It's a way of life where we're reflecting on what am I doing? What's the intention? What am I getting back? And can I reflect on it and think about it in new and fresh ways? And each time we go over the terrain, we get something else. It's like peeling the onion. We go deeper and deeper. So the idea here is to go back to the first one. It has to do with this idea of when we understand, then the activity we need to engage in will lead to clear actions and we'll get the intention that we first set because we have clear intentions and clear actions, clear feedback, and then clear adjustments to it so that we do what we say we're going to do. So this idea of mental toughness, like this book called Focus for Soccer, it says mental toughness is to physically do what we mentally commit to. So we commit to seeking to understand, and through the understanding will lead to clear intentions, clear actions. And so let's stay involved in this learning process with the growth mindset to say yes to life. And what's the lesson? And that lesson is going to take roadblock and turn it into stepping stones.